You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Hey, we're back with my in-studio guest, Senator Frank Blas Jr., now actually Republican candidate to delegate to the Washington office. Senator Frank, let me ask you this. Guam now is in pursuit of its political self-determination, looking like 2014 probably is the magical number. Hopefully that's your re-election time again, that time. I'm sure there's buzz around the nation's capital about Guam's quest for their political determination. Our relationship, what do you seek for Guam's relationship with the U.S.?
Well, you know, first off, Jess, I think we've got to understand, first off, I put it in the context of how the nation itself had started itself, okay? The United States started because there were a group of colonists that were living in 13 colonies, you know, back in the 1700s, that were displeased and were uneasy that British Parliament, thousands of miles away across the Atlantic Ocean, was making rules for them and setting laws for them that they had to follow, and they had no representation.
Well, sounds like Guam.
Doesn't that sound very familiar? So they were upset with this. They said this was unlawful. This was unjust. This cannot happen. If you're not going to give us the representation, you know, we want to be them represent ourselves. And so then, hence the formation of what we now knows, of course, as our nation, the United States of America. Fast forward about 300 years later, and what we're looking at is the opportunity to be able to be an integral part of the discussion and the decision on matters that pertain to Guam. You know, the insular cases, there were some cases that occurred right around the turn of the century, in about 1895 to about 1905. There were cases that were termed the insular cases. And the insular cases basically says, okay, those individuals or those territories, I find it very interesting. You are part of the United States, but not a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. You are with our family, but you're not. And I think that after many decades, that question needs to be resolved. That needs to be answered. I also find it very interesting that the same panel of judges that ruled on the insular cases, that ruled on what our relationship should be, back in 1895, 1896, were the same panel of judges that said that segregation in schools was constitutional. Okay, so and if we're going to continue to be governed by those sets of laws, by those sets of rules, by that mindset, we've got to advance. This is the 21st century. We've got to move forward in this. I think we've advanced far enough that we want to be able to have those discussions and be a part of that decision-making process. We want to be able to have a vote. What is so wrong with giving us the authority, the power, if you will, to be able to say yes or no on matters that pertain to Guam?
Us. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you don't want me to vote on a matter that
pertains to you?
Pertains to Des Moines, Iowa? Okay, then fine. All right, I won't do that. But if you're going to impose a regulation, if you're going to impose a restriction, a tax, or anything otherwise, if you will, that's going to affect the people of Guam. Don't you think the people of Guam should have an opportunity to have a say-so on this thing?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, let's go to a caller, okay? Sure. Let's go to Jay from Tamuning. Jay, welcome to the Buzz.
Hi. Good evening.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Good. You know, when you become the next congressman of Guam, what do you plan to do to convince the federal government to give us more money for Compact Impact that's way different than Congressman Madeline Berdalio?
Good. Thank you for the question. That's a very good question. I think that, you know, even if you look at today's State of the Union address, I think it would be inconceivable to think that right now, I believe that the amounts that they owe us right now is close to about $565 million.
Wow, so it's
okay. So it may be inconceivable that the federal government is going to give us a $565 million check. But there are other ways to be able to do this. In the National Defense Authorization Act that last year, there was a provision that was contained to allow the utilization of the monies that were owed for Compact Impact reimbursements to be offset to purchase FENA water, wastewater. Now, I don't agree to the purchase of the water and wastewater. I don't agree to that. But the mechanism was there. Congress already put that in. The president signed off. This is something then that we could use. This is a tool that we could use to be able to look. I've had discussions. I had discussions with USDA and Department of Interior a couple years back. Remember that when we had that issue with regards to that water tank that collapsed, and we were looking for the money to be able to do this? That was the discussion I had with USDA. In being able to possibly utilize the programs that they have to be able to rehabilitate or rebuild these structures, and the amounts that we have to pay back in as far as the loan, if there could be an agreement with the Department of Interior to be able to use those monies that they owe us, offset those costs, and they make the annual payment from DOI to USDA so that we can get and we have the water tank rebuilt. So it's those mechanisms that we need to look at. We need to start to look at and think outside of the box here. There are many ways to be able to do this. You know, I find that if in my role as Guam's representative to Congress, it's also my role as Guam's representative to Washington, D.C. Okay? I'm willing to walk the streets of Washington, D.C. to be able to knock on those doors where I need to knock on, so that I can talk to those people that actually are in charge of these different programs, so that we can move forward in being able to offset some of these costs.
We're going to go to a break. We'll come back again more with Senator Frank when we come back.